Hi, welcome to Cubs and Culture for March 13th, 2018. Okay, so you're going to see the first set of clips is going to be the Cubs' longest home runs from 2017, and it's going to be my long ball section. Long ball basically refers to, it's the dominant style of play today, and it's basically what you're looking for are balls to drive, so you aim where by looking for balls to drive, you're basically trying to hit home runs and doubles. And then you rely on your eye to generate your walks, etc. So it's not just any hittable pitch. It's a pitch you can really do damage with. And the other thing you see this a lot with Bryant or Schwarber, is an uppercut motion with your bat where it gets the angle of the ball up so it launches better. This launch angle thing, like right there, on Schwarber was a really good example where it's sort of an uppercut swing, is really sort of dominating the game. It's actually responsible for about a 50% of the increase of the home runs we've seen from 2015. Second half 2015 all the way through 2017, which is fine. I think it's actually a little bit of a problem sort of like aesthetically among other issues, because about 50% of scoring now is via the home run, which is a lot of stagnant outcomes on the field, because a third of the plate appearances last year ended up being either home runs, walks, or strikeouts, which is not necessarily the most interesting thing. Now, the other sort of thing about this is long ball as an overall strategy risks striking out a lot, and because of that, the other sort of thing that happens is you're so dependent upon the home run that sorry, just distracted by Baez. That's a huge uppercut swing. So that's what I mean by launch angle. Anyway, you're so dependent upon the home run for scoring that it becomes very, very bizarre. That if it happens to, like with the Cubs in the NLCS, they didn't score a single run by not a home run, and most of their home runs were single home runs because they weren't getting base hits, because they were simply looking for balls to drive as opposed to just trying to get a base hit. And then that whole thing last year where the Cubs struggled getting the runner in from third. They were the worst team doing that in the entire major leagues, because again, they tended to score because they tended to look to drive the ball as opposed to just putting the ball into play. And it's actually kind of a little bit of annoying as a fan, because last year in 2017 the Cubs were very feast or famine, so they ended up scoring the second most number of runs behind Colorado, but Rocky teams' runs are always inflated because they play in Coors Field 81 times. So you adjust for the parks or whatever. The Cubs had the most number of runs in the National League by for offense. The thing is, they couldn't seem all last year to get the run in because too many players were trying to go after home runs. And then the other thing that's a little bit bizarre about this, and this is sort of more of a cultural point, is a 500-foot home run, generally speaking, will score the same as a 400-foot home run. There's places in a park where 400 feet is not good enough for a home run, but let's say like 450 in all parks, other than possibly dead center in the Coors Field, because I don't have the numbers in front of me, score exactly the same as 500 until there's this bizarre fixation to me in baseball. Like, wow, that's a really long home run. Like, God damn it, it scores the same. Okay, so the other sort of major style of play, which is not the dominant form, is referred to as small ball or manufacturing runs. You're watching a bunch of steals of home, because steals of home are sort of the most quintessential version of small ball, where the idea behind this is to poke the ball into play to basically string a bunch of singles together. And if you happen to hit a double or home run, good. The idea is to keep the line moving. The Royals in 2015 were absolutely fantastic at this, and the Houston Astros are really good at it last year. And so the other sort of things you have for small ball is double steals. So like someone's on first and third, and the guy on first steals, try to steal second, which causes them, the guy, to steal home, etc., or triple steals, etc. You also have like safety squeezes, sack bunts, sack flies, etc. This stuff is a lot more interesting to me, just because it's so much more variable in outcome, and it's also rarer. So like the clip I showed you before of the home runs, those were not all the home runs the Cubs hit. Those were simply the longest home runs the Cubs hit in 2017. These steals of home are from like a 5 to 10 year period, and even a little bit longer than that, because they don't happen that like they only happen like 2 or 3 times a year most years, while home runs are 6,000. Now the issue with small ball is it risks outs on the base path because of caught stealing, etc. But at the same time, because you're just trying to poke the ball into play, your strikeouts go down. So it's a sort of a balancing act. Now the thing is, aesthetically, I like small ball a lot more, much better. I think the math ultimately supports being mostly long ball oriented, because it's something like, unless you can steal a base 80% of the time, it's not worth the risk, or like that. But in any case, one thing I think about this, and let me quote Earl Weaver. Earl Weaver was famous for saying, he won a baseball game with pitching, defense, and 3-run homer. I really don't think, I think too many teams are built for one or the, most teams are now building for long balls to slug the ball. With maybe their leadoff guy like Billy Hamilton on the Reds, play a little bit of small ball. Far too many players, I think, especially on the Cubs, don't adjust to the game situation, and it's not the case. Even if we want to say in general, you want to look for a ball to drive to do the most amount of damage, there are times in the season or in the game where you need to do small ball tactics like sack bunts and sack flies. One of the things that was a little bit weird last year, and I think Madden just pulled back on it because of not wanting to push players, is he never put on, he's famous for doing safety squeezes, which is a bunt on first, a guy on first and a person on third, which is virtually impossible to defend against. He would do that all the time with Tampa, and he did it a lot in 2015 and 2016, but he didn't seem to do it a lot in 2017, and that was a little bit annoying. The other thing I want to quickly say about this, since I'm almost at my 10 minutes today, is I really wish Madden, so I think teams need to respond to situations better, but I also think certain players should be told that, you should be sort of a small ball person. And my example of this is Baez. Baez, when you tell, like, Baez is sort of famous. When Joe Madden first talked to him, that he said to him, "Hey, I want you to hit singles," and then he got 3 hits that day, etc. So I'm wondering if you tell him, "Hey, I want you to be a small ball person," if his strikeouts would go down. Okay, so that's going to be it for Cubs and Culture. See you tomorrow. Also enjoyed the joke with Republican Jesus. Okay, have a good day. Cubs and Culture out. See ya.